Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you all the members, all the patrons. Make sure to subscribe and continue in this series of videos that I will be doing covering the new aircraft. We are flying the JAS GRIPEN C variant, the JAS-39C, right? The version that came to the UK, okay? We're going to fly it on Air RB today, and on ground RB, or on a multi-role kind of situation, I will be using the A variant for the Swedish, okay? The only big difference between the two is basically the MatAWG that they use. In the C variant is a MatAWG B, in the A variant is a MatAWG A. That's pretty much what it is, okay? Everything else is pretty much the same. It's the same missile, different names. RB71, here's the Skyflash, but it's the same name, okay? A9Ls instead of the RB74. A9Ms instead of the RB74M, right? So it's basically the same aircraft, just consider that, okay? It has a helmet mounted sight, okay? They added something like this, which is very, very cool. But let's talk about the performance of the aircraft, what it is like, and to be honest, it's kind of weird. It really is a weird aircraft. Why? Because it was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a monster, and we got a great aircraft. That's the difference, you know. The monster would destroy the whole match, and the great aircraft can destroy a game if it's used correctly, right? It's an aircraft that can dominate if you use correctly. It's kind of interesting, actually. If you would compare to something like the Su-27, I think, of course, it would be better at some things and worse at other things. And then it depends on basically what do you care on an aircraft. For me, for example, I love to have a BVR weapon. Although it might not be the current meta or anything like that, it kind of builds a reach on the aircraft, right? It kind of builds, it's like a form of a bigger sword, if you will, right? It can actually carry people and destroy people from a further distance, especially in a head-on, right? And it's something that the GRIPEN kind of lacks. That's where I think it's the main difference. Of course, there's always the air-to-ground, that the F-15 and the Su-27 will be worse than the GRIPEN. But in a general sense, it feels very much similarly to something like the F-16A, I gotta say, right? It is better, I think, in overall sense. It might turn worse here and there, or be better at a certain speed or whatever, but in a general sense, it feels very much like an F-16A, an aircraft that has everything there but one thing, which is the BVR. And then it depends if you're going to like this aircraft or not, if you consider BVR a big part of your type of gameplay style. For me, for example, I love to do BVR. I love to have the reach of an R-27 or a Sparrow F, right, or M. Something that the GRIPEN doesn't have. So for me, it lacks that. And although it is very fun to fly, and it can beat basically everything in a dogfight if you know what you're doing, there will always be that little thing, that missing spice of being able to actually shoot from the front at 15 kilometers and being able to kill somebody and be offensive about it in a head-on like that, that the GRIPEN is lacking right now. Of course, the Skyflash can be used like that, but it's, you know how it is. The Skyflash is a very short-range missile. If you fire, I mean, you can get kills from above 10 kilometers, but you know how it is. It's very easy to decoy the missile, and it ends up being kind of, it's not a very good idea to fire missiles from further away. You will see me trying to do that, and you'll see how I fail just miserably, right? So that's the only problem that I see on the aircraft, this lacking of BVR. Everything else is amazing, guys. And of course, remember, the BVR will come, the proper BVR will come to this aircraft eventually when the Fox 3s are added. It's just a matter of time, right? So thinking about the future, of course, it is going to be one of the best aircraft in the game by far. You know, it's really, really good at dogfight. It has a lot of ammunition, a lot of fuel. It's very efficient on the engine side of things, of fuel consumption. Produces a lot of power. It is a little bit like, it has like 1400 kilometers per hour of max speed, so there are fast aircraft out there, but it's not something that matters a lot, right? You can still be worked around. So I think it's an aircraft that will have a very specific play style until it receives the proper RB99s, right? You will need to fly low Don't try to do BVR or anything like that, of course. Honestly, this is obviously, right? So fly low and try to get people by a surprise. It would be always a good idea. I mean, any aircraft, right? But in a general sense, in furballs, you know, this is where this aircraft shines. The craziness of furballs. It's amazing in a dogfight. It can beat literally everything if you know what you're doing. And there are more complete aircraft than the GRIPEN, but I gotta be honest, if you forget a little bit about the BVR kind of point, this is one of the most complete aircraft in the game. It has amazing dogfight capability, amazing missiles with a helmet mounted sight. It has an ability of using something that is usable in a head-on, which is the Sky Flash. Yes, it is not the best missile ever, but it can be used, and you will be used sometimes. And together with all of that, being a very good, just a pure fighter, it has a very good air-to-ground capability. And I will probably be using the A variant on the air-to-ground like kind of role. On the Swedish Tech Tree, but to show to you guys how good it is. But yeah, it's amazing at that. So there's this little thing, it's just a little step from being kind of perfect. That's what it is, right? But at the same time, it wasn't really what I was expecting. I don't know why, I just thought this aircraft was going to be a monster, and I think I was kind of misled to the from the dev server, right? On the dev server, the canards were working in a very weird way that you can pull a lot of AOA, and now it's kind of more limited to that. But it doesn't like finish the amount of turn that it can do. It's just that on a bit side of like the way that you are using, you cannot do cobras basically. That's pretty much what it is. Everything else it feels the same, right? So if you are considering adding this aircraft to your, you know, loadouts, just remember, it's a light aircraft, and if you have the F-16A, expect something along those lines. A very light aircraft that can do a lot of dogfighting, but it cannot do BVR. That's pretty much what it is, with an even better air-to-ground situation compared to the F-16A, right? So, yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is, right? And as I said, as I was saying, basically it's just comes down to personal preference. I personally prefer to use the F-15 and the Su-27, a MiG-29. It's more my play style, right? Even the F-16C with the AIM-7s, right? But at the end of the day, I'm just waiting for the AIM-120s, because when the AIM-120s come, this aircraft will finally be complete. And then I think it's going to be the most meta aircraft for a period of time, of course. Or, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's going to be the most meta aircraft ever, because as always, you know, everybody will receive something, right? So, of course, there will be the I don't know, the Eurofighter, which will be comparable. Then we would have the Mirage 2000 with Mikas, or even the Rafale later. More versions of the MiG-29 or Su-27, F-15, F-16. So there's always that, you know, so there's always the best thing ever right there. But it's a unique aircraft, very light, very nimble, very raw in the experience, so it's a very interesting thing. And here it's a clear example on the only drawback that this aircraft actually has, which is the BVR. Yes, BVR is not the meta, the furballs are, but as you see how I'm always on a defensive just because I don't have the reach of an R-27. I always need to be flying very low to the ground and being more defensive than he is. He's just flying towards me. I don't know how the Sky Flash didn't hit him, but still, it kind of gives an example of what I mean with the idea of being kind of problematic on the sense of not having BVR, right? Is it a big deal? No. But there will always be a situation here and there that you could use a proper BVR missile instead of the Sky Flash, right? But everything else, it's fine. So, yeah. And as you see on some matches, you will notice a lot of people just flying very high and trying to do BVR, which is fun, guys. Hopefully in the future they properly implement the thing about flying low, you know. A lot of people like that idea because they don't want to get shot from 60 kilometers and get killed. But I mean, I was talking with some friends, I don't think that's really realistic on the way that it is right now. maybe at a certain point, but it's not as realistic as it should. And to be honest, with that idea in mind, if they ever fix that, if it's unrealistic, that if you fly low, the missile just goes straight to the ground on radar missile side of things, the BVR would kind of jumping on the matter of things, right? Because you would need to learn how to do BVR and stuff. But at the same time, aircraft such as this one would lag behind if they don't have a proper BVR missile. So it's kind of a win-lose kind of situation, depending, or a lose-lose situation, win-win situation, depending on how you see it. So it's complicated, right? But anyway, it's not the point of the video anyway. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how to play this aircraft. It's a little bit different, but if you are considering, again, play it like an F-16A and you should be fine, okay? And yeah, as you see here, I'm using the helmet. I'm doing shots with the AIM-9M. The AIM-9M can be a mixture of the best missile ever or the worst missile ever. It depends very much on the situation, because that's the thing about the AIM-9M, right? It's a missile that if the target doesn't really know how to avoid specifically that missile, it will be kind of hard to avoid it, and it will be kind of a free kill. But if the target knows that you need to change directions, then it's very easy to avoid it. So it depends, right? It really, really depends on the situation, depends on the player that you are fighting. And I cannot wait to have more missiles and more stuff on the GRIPEN in the far future, because I don't think we're going to see better IR missiles in the future. Just see the RB99, the M120 coming, right? So there is that. But here you have it, guys. I will be doing a full verdict of all the aircraft and how they perform against each other in a future tier list video when I play with everything. But I gotta be honest, the GRIPEN, great aircraft. The best? Probably not, but one of the best. I think that's more fair to consider, okay? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe and leave it in the comments. What do you think about the GRIPEN? Is it a meta-changing aircraft, or is it just another light fighter? Leave it in the comments, and I see you guys on the next one. Subscribe.